Hello, I am making a test video right now on this tablet. I have this tablet hooked up to Nikki Loves Dogs. The two Chromebooks are hooked up to Clay and Putty videos, and the other tablet is hooked up to Nikki Daisy Redwood. So I got 3 active channels. It's all a little bit chaotic, but it's not intentional. It's more incidental, and has to do with a lot of emotional stuff. So the last video on this channel I actually made that on November 30, 2019. 10 days after I made my last video, my papa dog Dave had a major stroke, and he ran up to the door. Everything seemed to be, he was still full of energy and all of it. He had been eating too much. Paul had been feeding him too much. He was running up to the door, and he ran into the other corner of the door, which he had already done before. So he had already become a little bit disoriented. And I kind of had some anosognosia about it, because I didn't really want to acknowledge that he had already become a little bit age demented. He was almost 11 years old. That's very old for a European Basset Hound. They're large dogs. They're actually extra large dogs. And he wore extra large. And he ran up into the other corner of the door where the hinge is. And then he suddenly fell over to the right side, just like that. He fell over, and one other dog, Samantha, long time ago, when she had a stroke, it was very similar. It looked very similar, so that's how I know it was a stroke. And so he tried to get back up, but his brain already there was some, I guess there was some anoxia in the brain, which had caused him to fall over. And then when he came back to, it was just a second or something, and then he immediately tried to get back up, but he couldn't fully get back up. He was like twisted, and he kept on falling again and twisting somehow. So there was something not right anymore in the motor coordination, the motor system of the brain. And I was absolutely terrified. I said, Paul, he's having a stroke. We have to rush him to the veterinarian. And it was absolutely gruesome. Absolutely gruesome. It was traumatic for me. Absolutely traumatic. So Paul he was on his way out. He needed to make pee-pee, so Paul was trying to get him to go make pee-pee. And I ran over. I put my shoes on. I got his harness, and we managed to get him into the van, and we drove him to the veterinarian, and they came with a stretcher. He couldn't walk at all anymore, and it was just so, it was like a nightmare. And so they brought him into the vet office, emergency, and the vet did some examinations. He guessed it's a stroke because he has experience, and I could tell it was a stroke. And then, because I was crying so much, I was in such hysteric panic. It was just so much worse. It was infinitely much worse than losing my own child, my own biological child, because the papa dog is the world to me. He's my everything. It's the meaning of my life. He's my paradise. So the vet, I didn't tell this detailed stuff on my other channels. I guess I wasn't really ready for that yet. Not in that detail. So then the veterinarian said that I can't come down into the emergency unit with him. And I totally freaked out and panicked. That's absolutely cruel to do this to a dog mother, to say that you can't come in there. We're gonna do an x-ray now. We have to insert some IV needles and you have to stay there. You need to calm down. You need to, here's a box of tissues. So that's very mechanistic and very, it's very unethical. And it's just very disconnected. I don't think they're very attuned. That's the problem. It's not out of maliciousness. They're just not attuned. They don't want trouble. They don't want someone to stand there in the emergency unit and be crying. And it was awful. It was absolutely a nightmare. So, and then that's the longest waiting in my life. And then when they finally came back and said, you can come down now, and then he was on some kind of operation table with IV needles in his, was one IV needle, but it looked like they had poked into his other arm as well. He had like poke wounds. Horrific. But he had that IV needle in there, and that was ready for the pentobarbital injection that would be hooked up with a hose. And when he saw me, when I came in, my papa dog, he looked at me and he was trying to get up from that operation table. He was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna go home with Nicola now. That was the energy. I'm gonna go home with Nicola. I don't want to be here with you guys. You're poking holes into my arms. I don't like that. And he's never had any pleasant experiences. Also, before we ever adopted him, he never had any pleasant experiences at veterinary hospitals because they had a tumor removed and teeth removed, and so all kinds of horrific things already he's been through, So it was just so horrible for me. I said, Papa Dog, I am here for you, okay, all the way through, and we're gonna make it through this together, okay. And then I was holding him, and then some of the assistants were nice, and they petted my arm. And so then the veterinarian said, so are we ready now for it? And he came with pentobarbital, and I was, because I mean there was just no hope with the stroke that had done so much brain damage already on him, and he was old. And then he said that the X-ray revealed that he had lung cancer and had already been like wheezing sounds when he was breathing. And so I had my arms all the way around him, and I highly recommend that to people, to do that. Don't be afraid of the emotions. The emotions are already raw, so face it all the way. Be there for your animal. He needs you. She needs you. Okay? They need you to be there for them. Very, very infinitely important. This is a transition. Okay? This is taking their current spacesuit off, a spacesuit called a body. That's a major, major, major transition and transformation. It's like a metamorphosis. And you have to be there for them. This is all about energy. It's all about an energetic transaction. And you have to be there, and you have to feel with them, cry with them. It's all okay, And you have to have your arms all the way around your animal. With the Great Danes in the past, I would lie down on the floor with the Great Dane on the ground and have my arms around them during the procedure. And with the Papa, they lifted him up on that operation table. And I had my arms all the way around him, and I had my face on his belly. And so then he hooked up that vinyl hose, and the blue fluid got in, and I already felt like relief. All I wanted is relief for the Papa dog, because his body was extremely tense. He was terrified, and I think the dogs, or all animals, and humans too. Of course, humans, they know because we communicate with language, but they would also know if they didn't know language. So, for someone who is developmentally challenged, they would know it. So it doesn't matter whether you cognitively understand what's going on or just energetically, you know what's going on energetically, either way. And the animals in slaughter facilities know it too. Trust me, they know it too. They are absolutely terrified, and that's why we cannot support something like this anymore. So death, assisted dying, euthanasia, that's the only way, that's the only death that we cause that is ethical, is merciful euthanasia. Eu means good. Thanasia comes from tanas, which means death. It's good death. It's assisted death. Death without pain. Death without violence. Okay. A quick, pain-free death that comes, that engulfs your brain, that shuts down the consciousness immediately, and then shuts down the organs. Okay, so, and that's what happened. He got real drowsy, and then I could feel it. I could feel this, almost like a relief, like a sigh, but it was like an energetic, deep relief. And I even said it, because I was feeling so strongly with him. I was like, relief. That's what I said. And because I was just there, I was one unit with the Papa dog all the way through. And that was good for him. That was very, very important for him. And then I stayed there, and then that's what we have to do. We have to stay there for several minutes. The longer the better. So stay there for 10 minutes if they permit you to do this. So, and just be there to make sure, and still hold the animal, still hold him. So it's a transition. Yeah, his soul is gonna go. It's going out, and the soul needs to feel safe to do that. Whether people believe in this or not, I know that this is happening. I feel it. There's so much more than the scientists or anyone can possibly imagine. There is so much more going on. We're not just the body, okay? we have we are an energetic vibration. We're a bundle of energy. That's what we are. We have an astral body. We have several layers that are also emanating from us. That's what's called an aura. Okay, everything. The soul is in all the way through this body and emanating out in different layers, in different shields of protection also. And so I still felt him there. He was now taking up the entire room. And there was a sense of relief and infinite love from him for all of us. And the veterinarian could feel it too. I was very surprised. He could feel it too. And he said, "You've taken very good care of your dog. He doesn't get to see an animal very often who had been taken care of so well." And that means so much to me that he said that. He said that also about Kenny and Samantha. And so then they brought him with the stretcher into the van, and we brought him back home. And we laid him on a tarp out there on the lawn, and it was raining just like it is right now on December 10, 2019, in the afternoon. And I was lying next to him, and I put my arm around him, and I stayed there, lying down there with him, putting my face in his coat. And now he was like a stuffed animal, you know, like this here. Like this. No life there. No heartbeat. Still supple, still soft, you know, pliable, smooth. But no life, no response like this below. But it's okay. You know, I stayed there with him anyway, and he was grateful for that. He was already all the way around. And he was there with us. For many months, and he still is. He's just expanding out more, like a huge cloud, expanding more. It's also expanding towards all the solar systems, but also here, you know, at the same time. I stayed there with him for a long time. Then we went over to Kenny's grave, and we dug another grave next to Kenny's grave. And we brought the papa's body over, and we gently laid his body into the grave. We left the grave open. We did the same with Kenny. Did the same with Kenny when he died in December. Kenny died on December 11, 2016, which is also quite remarkable. Papa, just one day apart in the date. One day apart, just 3 years in between. It's very strange, is it? So there's an energetic connection, definitely. And I stayed there. I just sat there for a long time. And the next day, I checked the body. Body was rigid. You know, you have to lift the leg up, and the leg was not pliable anymore. It was stiff, rigid, like a hard stuffed animal, like with some kind of iron wool in it or something. So then I put some of these real big earthworms and laid them next to his body so that they can eat, and he can be recycled. And that's wonderful. That's how this life exists. You know, that's the natural existence here on this planet. And that's good, and we need to embrace that. You know, we need to embrace that for all beings. For humans too, you know. Why make these religious ceremonies and these artificial things? Why create these kind of things around it? Out of tradition, out of religion, out of ideology, identity with the religion, and out of social pressures and expectations and a fear of death and all of these things, you know, like embalming some. That's ridiculous. That doesn't serve that body, that being, or the earth, you know, to embalm anyone or to incinerate anyone. There's no need for that. Okay, so you don't need to incinerate anyone. That causes global warming. What needs to be done is you dig a grave like we have done for our dogs, 3 feet deep, approximately, and you lay the naked body without clothes, without jewelry, without any artificial flowers or something, without embalming. You lay that body into that grave. You make sure, probably wait for a day. You know, there have been bodies that have come back to life for some odd, strange reasons. So these things have occurred. That's rare, but yeah. And there was in LA, there was a dog who woke up in that cooling room, you know, where they have the dead euthanized animals. And someone saw that, and they in the nick of time rescued her and helped her and gave her heating blankets, and she came completely back to consciousness, and they contacted the owner of the dog, so the caregiver, and he came back, and he was absolutely shocked and surprised. And then she got to live another couple of years. That's very rare, but these things can happen, and that's why I recommend, whether there is a human or an animal in the grave, wait a day, okay, and then check in on them again. And you can see, you know, the way the eyes are, when the eyes are open, and when that this eye I don't know what's it called, the retina moisture, the there's like an hydration film on the eye. So when that's gone, when there's no more hydration on the eye, when they have this dullness in the iris, so then that's definitely an indication for complete rigor mortis, where cell death has occurred. The body is not fully dead until all the cells in that body are dead. Okay, so until that happens, there can be something happening that revives the brain or the heart. Okay, that could be. And when that happens, when the brain and the heart gets reanimated, it pumps again. Okay, it supplies the cells with nutrients, and then the body's still alive. So, but that's very rare, and you want to make sure that if they do get revived by something, that you can be there for them, and you can rescue them, and you can help them heal and live another couple of years. Okay, so, but yeah, you wait for a night, you go back next day, you check on the body. That's what we did. There were ants. When there are ants on the body, that's another sign. And then when the body is completely rigid, completely stiff, that's rigor, the rigidness. Rigor mortis, the rigidness of death, when there's total cell death. Then there's no chance for the body reviving. Then you put that mountain of earth soil on it. You shovel that on it. You put all the big earthworms onto the corpse. And it was already raining that day, so that was moisturizing the earthworms and the soil. And so if it's a summer day where it's not raining, then I highly recommend for people to irrigate the grave, so you cover the grave and then you irrigate the grave, and irrigate the grave every day so that the earthworms inside don't dehydrate. And then the day after that, I went back with my ocean rocks that we have found together with Dave, and I put the ocean rocks on his grave. And then later on, I put another ocean rock also on Kenny's grave as well. We had already put some ocean rocks on his grave. And then I had to process what happened. So first, you just live for that being. You are there. You live for that process of tending to that being all the way through. Sometimes that can go a bit like on autopilot, where you put your own needs and even your own grief is kind of put on hold for that moment, or your own mortification and terror and shock and trauma. Put that on hold. You're there for that other being. You see him all the way through to the other side. And then you can sit down next to the grave, and then you can allow your healing and your grieving process. Healing and grieving is the same. You can allow your grieving process to begin. Okay. And so since then, I have been going through unimaginable mental stages incredible. And I already knew, I've already been telling everyone, when Papa dies, I'm gonna die too. I really wasn't sure whether I was gonna make it. And first, I got this real violent bladder infection. Violent, 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 violent. With screaming and in agony. Like someone stabbing me or something. It was so painful. Yeah, I could have gone to the hospital, but I didn't because I already know they're not gonna help me. They're not gonna really help me. They're gonna give me antibiotics, and that's what I didn't want. So instead, I took a lot of those herbal, those kidney bladder supplements that I have, herbal supplements, took a lot of those, and many other herbs and other herbal teas, and I just constantly drowned myself in these herbal supplements, and the bladder infection healed up very smoothly, so in just a few days. And I was screaming every day in grief, every day, every day, every day, every day. Paul and I had horrible fights, screaming. I was screaming at him. I was totally borderline. But, and he wasn't always saying the right things, and he's a little klutzy sometimes. But he was there for me, so he definitely was there for me, and I'd so infinitely appreciate that. So that's all that matters. Nothing else matters. Love is the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter how old someone is, or how decrepit, or bad looking, or this or that, or not your type, or whatever. But what matters is infinite love. That's all that matters. Okay. So Paul and I are just friends, and that's what matters, and nothing else. Okay. And I went through unimaginable stages. Then I had extreme rage against psychopaths in the chat rooms, and because I was in such grief and so borderline, and in so much pain, the people in the chat room, which I really wanted to distract myself in the chat room. I wanted to get them to be there for me, but they can't, if I don't cater to their particular needs, because I can't in the moment that I'm in grief, then they will misunderstand it as arrogance, as this or that, anything but that what it actually is, namely the grief. Even though if I tell them my dog died, I'm suicidal, they don't understand it. They can't understand it vibrationally, because they're only interested in me catering to their immediate needs that they have right now for approval and so on. And if I don't give that, then I am a horrible person for them, and they feel like they need to retaliate, and then things just get worse and worse and worse. And then that triggers me further into my childhood pain, and then together with the grief, it's just total devastation where I just wanted to end my life. And it was about a month after Dave died that I attempted twice with an overdose, but I woke up again, and I really took a lot of that. I really took a lot. I took so much. I took more than I thought I needed. but I still woke up again. And there was this energy of the energy cloud, the soul cloud of Kenny and Dave. And they spoke to me energetically and they said, Nicola, you still have another dog to rescue. There's another soul coming into existence and you need to rescue him. And I said, okay, I don't want to exist, but okay, I will do it. You know, I said, I feel old and ugly, I feel like garbage. And the people in the chat room have told me that, because they only see their own. Like a little toddler. Little toddler can't see there's a living being in agony and need. You know, maybe she needs some love. No, they can't see that. Most of them. If I don't cater to them, if I'm in a rage, if I say end Islam, if I say I'm not gonna let you objectify me and rape me and with words or whatever, you know, then they only feel their own rejection. They don't see there is this woman going through grief. And people have said unimaginably gruesome things to me. I don't even want to repeat it. So barbarically psychopathic and like psychopathically insensitive, knowing what I was going through. I don't want to repeat it. It's too bad. It's just too crude and too violent. So then I decided, okay, I don't want to go into those, particularly not into those chat rooms anymore, where the Muslims and the fundamentalist Christians go to debunk science. So I'm not going into those anymore. They have absolutely no guard bots in those. Absolutely, there's no guarding going on at all. I don't know why. What's the point? So what's the point in having it then? You know, if teenagers go there and they get bullied into suicide, I don't understand what the point is of these science and galaxy and astrophysics chat rooms, you know, where it's just a magnet for psychopathic, violent religious people to go there to bully the handful of well-meaning kids who want to learn about astrophysics. So that just causes more problems, you know, not to have chatbots that are protecting the innocent minds that are in that chat room. So I tried to protect some people. I never got protected by anyone else, but that's, you know, I was the only grandmother in that chat room, of course, you know. So everyone else was a teenager, literally, and metaphorically, and also toddlers, metaphorically. So I can't expect anything else, you know. But that's why we need to have programs that are protecting people in those chat rooms. So anyway, I quit that. I quit all chat rooms for, I don't know, a month or two. And then if I go on a chat room, I only go into the ones that are safe, that actually have people that are making sure that no one is getting bullied. And just also a human, even two people can't oversee this entire chat room, particularly when it's crowded. So that's why we need to have programs. We need to have guard programs. That's desperately needed on the internet. I see what the bullies are doing to people, particularly teenagers. You know, the grandmothers have become a little bit wiser and a little bit more, have a little bit more overview, a little bit more, they're more aware about, you know, where these people are coming from, and they take it less personally. But teenagers and children, how can they not take this personally? This hits right into the same wound. From mother and father, from being battered and beaten and humiliated and shamed by their family and their peer group and their religious group and so on. Religious communities are particularly prone to this type of shaming and this type of stigmatization and so on. So we need to help these people. Okay, that's very important. So I've done everything I can so far, and am doing everything I can to protect myself, to heal myself, and to do holistic healing with herbs, with tea. Rhododendron kills viruses. It's good, it's safe for people. It's not safe for dogs. Can't give dogs rhododendron, but you can give dogs Camellia japonica. That's good for humans and dogs and all animals. We have both plants in the garden. I harvest those. I make tea with it every day. That's very helpful when after I went shopping. I get rid of every virus that I may have caught, you know, with rhododendron and Camellia japonica. It's also helping me psychologically. I've been painting. I have finished 2 paintings since then. It takes me a very long time to complete a painting. I finished one in the hallway and one here I have on the table, and I will show that in my next video. I just wanted to make this video only for a detailed therapy session for myself on what has been going on, and patting myself on the shoulder and saying, Nicola, you're doing very well. And I'm doing well because the Papa and Kenny are watching over me and they're protecting me. So, okay, you guys take care. I'll make another video for my artwork. Okay, bye bye.